Hello, and welcome to this week's market prep video. Really appreciate you taking the time here to come and go over the markets with me. Of course, we're going to be doing a video on the futures, E-mini S&P 500, as well as the NQ NASDAQ, and take a quick look at some other data points that we like to use to gain a little bit of a idea of what to potentially expect coming into next week. If this is your first time here and you enjoyed the content, you want to do it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell so that way you are notified every time we post an update about the stock market. And for all the loyal followers and people who have already subscribed, thank you so much for your support. As always, this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and in no way should be viewed as financial advice. Going to start off and look at some of the higher time frames on a blank chart like we usually do. Going to go over the economic calendar as well. So let's start to do that and take a look at what we have in store this week before we get into the charts. It looks, what I briefly looked, it looks like a quiet week overall for us on the data front. Monday, nothing really happening. Looks like Goolsby speaking at 10. And on Tuesday, the 19th, he is speaking again at 12:25. Nothing else in the morning that really interests me. Wednesday, November 20th, Lisa Cook speaking at 11, Bowman speaking at 12:15. But really Wednesday, all eyes are going to be on NVIDIA earnings, so let's pay attention to that very, very closely. Could see a little bit of hesitation and chop in the market, being such a big earnings event. I'm not 100% sure about that, but just keep your eye open for that potentiality as well on Wednesday. Thursday, initial jobless claims at 8:30. We'll be paying attention to that for sure. And it looks like we have Hammock, Cleveland Fed president, speaking 8:45 before the market opens. A little bit more Fed speak around 1 o'clock from Jeff Smith. And then we have Barr speaking after the market's closed at 4:40. So initial jobless claims there, we'll be definitely watching that. Friday, the 22nd of November, flash services PMI, manufacturing PMI at 9:45, consumer sentiment at 10. We'll be paying attention to consumer sentiment at 10. Other than that, looks like a pretty easy week on the data front, so that is great. All right. So let's start to kick it off into some charts here. We're going to start off with the E-mini S&P futures. Of course, just with a blank chart and just kind of seeing what we have here overall with the big red day that we had on Friday to the downside. Now, we're still watching this overbought, oversold, still showing a little bit of that weakness, but not really coming down yet out of that extreme reading. I'm keeping an eye. We're still over the weekly 9, so that is not really too concerning. And look where we closed, right at 5,900 on the mark. And I think the real takeaway here for me personally is going to be these weekly highs here. And we're going to, of course, get down into our daily chart where we can see things a little bit more clearly as far as this week's range, the top of this week's range. But we did talk about that in the last week's video about a key area that we did need to hold over the top of this previous 2-week range here, and we did start to fall a little bit underneath it. So I am watching that. But the one thing I will say for the bull side, and it's very possible we can easily just shoot back up right above that range, and we'll go over those levels. Those balance highs, we'll go over those levels in a moment when we get to the daily chart. But we often talk about that 25 and 50% retracement. It can either be a daily candle or a weekly candle. But right now, we have last week's range coming down, and this is about that midpoint in between last week's range. So here we are again trading in a very familiar place overall, since we were just there last week. But we are still basically holding that 50% retracement. So I think that that's interesting. We definitely need to hold that. And even if we came down a bit lower from that weekly perspective, we do have that 9 right here, which probably is going to start to drift up just a little bit more. It might end up meeting the body of the weekly candle from the 28th, maybe right around 58, 55 thereabouts. We'll see how that progresses. But you can still say that if we at least hang out within this range and we don't really start to fall beneath that 50% retracement area, right? Maybe we can take the high from the week of the 28th, right? And that body. But really, as long as, and then we're also looking to see, if this starts to do something like this, drift up like that. So as long as we're holding here, and I'm going to say that 5,900 down again to that 58, 50, 60 area, we'll see as it progresses, but that is pretty much what I am looking at there. Then we can still have a bit of a bullish bias here, although there was definitely some structural damage done on the daily, which we will get into momentarily. But from the weekly view, this is all well, fine, and good as long as this area here is still supported. And we could just see something like this. We come into here, or we're in this zone. We even pop up from here, and then we start to push back up, right? So either of those scenarios could work out. So let's now get into the daily chart. I mean, otherwise, this, overall, just from the trend sequence, it's not even a weekly lower. I wouldn't even really consider this a weekly lower or higher low. It's not, that would maybe be down a little bit lower, and the trend could still even be valid from that weekly perspective. Again, not only the 9, but the 20 is right there as well. So, from the weekly view, not really too worried about anything overall. Let's get into the daily chart, and we're going to pull up the levels that we were watching from last week's video, just as we have a point of reference. And here you can see that top of that balance range that I was talking about earlier. And let's get into the daily chart. Now here we are certainly trading now above that, below that 9-period moving average. Right now sitting about 50 points higher, 59.50. So we will be paying attention to that. And just a non-committal close underneath the daily 20 as well, sitting at 910. It easily can pop up, and I would be of the suspicion that it will pop back up and recapture that. Now, if we had closed down by the lows in the 70s, then that would have been a bit of a different story as far as how clean that break of the 20 was, and I might be singing a little bit of a different song. But we had two pretty big red days, Thursday, Friday, coming in after really breaking down out of this balance range that we had talked about, that potential bull flag filling out and being created for a move to the upside. Boom, right? And we really did not want to break back below this area here, these lows that had been put in right around 59.90. And we were talking last week as well about that 6,000 area being really key. So for me now, from the daily point of view, structurally, now we're going to have to recapture. This was this break right here. Let me get this. When we broke these equal lows, and that was actually that little swing low. But when we broke these equal lows, didn't get it. This is the break of structure. This is where we've changed, right, overall the state of the delivery that we're having here in price. So unless the bulls can recapture, and sure, we've got the figure there, so we've got to consider that 6,000 marker as well. But the lows from the 13th and the matching lows from the 8th, which is right around, that's 59.90, and the lows, yeah, so we can just say 59.90 I think is fair for our balance lows. Break a structure there, boom. Okay, so that's really what is going to structurally have to be recaptured from the bulls to have a potential chance up higher. Now, something interesting that did happen, we were talking about this on Monday, and you'll probably be able to see it a little bit clearer on a shorter time frame, which we will get into, but I did talk about a potential scenario on the opening of the week that we may pop up higher, right? Fall back below and then start to create on that Monday session that excess inventory overhead. And what do you know? That's exactly what we got on Monday. We pushed up, made a new all-time high. When we'll see it a little bit clearer when we get into the hourly chart, when we go back into and we get a bit more granular for our day trading levels. But you can see we popped up above, and then after that, this whole area here, this was the excess supply, and they were trapped every time now that they tried to get back up over, unable to do so because everyone, these late longs that chased on Monday, oh, we're going to keep rallying, yeah, yada, yada, yada. And we talked about this a little bit on Twitter as well. You don't want to be the last one dancing at the party when they turn the music off. And here, these people were trapped, and then they just sold every time we came back up. They said, no, I'm getting out, here's my chance. And then there's just too much excess overhead, and there's not enough buyers, and this is what you get. Now, did I necessarily think that we were going to break through this? No, I didn't necessarily think that. But I thought we might stop there. The selling pressure was a little bit stronger than I kind of had anticipated. However, we did talk a little bit, and if you recall, you can go back into the video. I gave a warning about that thin structure that was created on these giant moves up. We looked at that volume profile, and we saw that thin structure created here on these moves, those LVNs, low volume nodes, and we had to fill that out, and that is exactly what had happened. Now, what am I thinking about Monday? Well, Monday, we certainly have, the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is, now we've fallen, what is this? I mean, we went halfway, but let's see, we gave about half of it back. Let's just look I'm just going to look from the 14th high. High to low, we dropped about 150 points, okay? So you got to be thinking now, all right, are we going to get a little bit of that rubber band, a little bit of that snapback? It's the first thing on my mind, right? Would I really want to be shorting here into the hole, so to speak? Not really. I'm not really interested in that. But what's really going to have to happen, or here are two scenarios in my view that could happen. And if you are wanting to get on the short train, if you do think that there's more pain coming in, which I think that could be a viable idea, where would I want to be shorting, right? And I'm actually going to put this up because we'll make this have that balance. Okay, where would I want to short, right? Because I'm not really interested in a short down here at 5,800, right? What would I want? So I think the more likely scenario, let's see what happens. We get a push, and we'll see where Globex opens, but any pushes back up into maybe about 15 points higher, come in to pretty much right about, the 20 is sitting at 59, 910. So it's right in this area. We closed 10 points under. Let's see if we get about 10 points higher. We might come up higher, but this is the first area where I'd consider a potential short. It's only 12 points. It's a little too obvious for me. So I'm wondering, more interested in that potential short, maybe at 59.25, 59.30, anywhere in that area, retesting, right, the top of this balance highs that needed to hold before, right? We came up here, as you can see. Bang, 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 bang. Okay, and all this area right in the zone. So, what am I looking at for potential moves like this? And then we look for the short trade further down, completing running through the rest of this. And where might we go? Well, I'm going to be looking for, and where would I consider a potential long? Maybe down in that 58.50 area, 58.30, about 20 points there, coming in to this prior balance high right here, right? This little flag that gave us this move up, right? We come back into here, and that makes sense for me. Now, there is a chance we could come a little bit lower, maybe to the high of the November 5th candle, maybe down, excuse me, a little bit lower, down to 58.20. I'd be a little surprised, but it's possible. We do have these value area highs here, or value area lows. This is oh, it is value area high. Where the hell is point of control? Oh, it's all the way down there. Okay. So maybe we do get down into the 5800 if we break 5830. I would say that that would be the likely target, down 5805, somewhere in that zone. So I'll be watching out for that. But in no way am I interested in jumping on any type of a swing on the short trade right here. I'm looking more for something like that. Now, what if we're bullish, right? And this is certainly a scenario that we have to consider too. Say we start to see some candles, whoops, maybe hang out here. Now we have to watch out for that potentiality of a bear flag kind of setting up there, giving us a bit of an H, right? This is still could be considered that possible bearish consolidation, but I will say that at least if we start seeing some acceptance, it could be a fake out. It's kind of very tread cautious kind of thing. Really, if you really want to be long, you got to wait for some daily closes over 59.30, in my opinion. And even then, you know, at that point, we're still just going to be then contending with the 9 and looking for a retest, right, of this prior balance low that we broke, our change of structure, right? So, and that is another area, if you are looking bearish, that would be kind of the last stand for the bears to gain any real foothold, right? Because if we start to see some candles, excuse me, close up in this area, well, then we're pretty much in that back to a bullish stance overall. Now, of course, we have to contend with up here, but that would be the most bullish scenario. So you have scenario A where you have, you start seeing some closes over here, and then we can look for the move up to retest those 59.90 area. Or if we're just hanging out under here, it's like a bear, it's like a neutral, I'd have to say a neutral stance overall. And we can still also look at the same type of view of, I mean, it'd be neutral to slightly bearish, right, in my opinion, but it's starting to get this is more of a neutral zone. But we can also look at this, the Friday's range, right? We were just looking at that weekly range before on the other chart, and we can still look at this range as well. Hanging out from top to bottom, well, 50% retracement thereabouts, maybe in I mean, we could look at, that's a bit too high. 59.40 is about 50%, or maybe somewhere in that range. If you'd like, you can just get that fib and go top to bottom to get the precise number. I'm just eyeballing it, but 59.50, 59.40, somewhere in that range. As long as we stay underneath that, I would have to say that the bulls are still a bit vulnerable. Of course, they are still vulnerable being below this balance high. But if we are looking for some type of a bullish retracement, right, I think that, you know, hanging out here would at least give us over 59.30, would give us a bit of a neutral stance. We'll see where the moving averages are at that point as well. But I think that that could give us that potentiality to come back up into the 5900, where, again, if you are bearish, that is a potential area to come in and look for another potential short. But really the target would be just back down into this area. I mean, and that's still a great trade by all means, but, you know, we could end up just staying, you know, congested in this area as well. That is another scenario that we have to watch out for. Now, we also did, again, we mentioned we went 150 points to the downside here. We talk about markets running, resting, run, rest, right? Got a little distribution, boom, down. Now we're starting another run cycle, but what's the more likely scenario? Well, probably now going into some rest mode. So That's why I just, of course, don't know where the range is going to be. Is it going to be trapped in this area here, or are we going to range in this area here, down here, which is pretty much the most bearish scenario if we are ranging in this zone, right? This would be a bullish to neutral with the still, obviously we have to get over 59.90, but this would be a little bit more constructive. Either way, that's the way I am looking at ES overall. I think we've got some good levels here for us and a good game plan for either direction. We can take a look at our old chart as well. I'm kind of liking this new one that we've been building, but we can take a look at our old chart that we have been working on from the previous videos a couple of weeks back. And look at this. I mean, really nailed the bottom there if you were prepared for a nice, what is, we came down a little bit lower. What was the low? I think it was 72. The low was 76, 58.76. But nailed that low for a nice, and we closed 76. I mean, you got a good 30 points or so, for 25 points there, if you did have this daily level marked out, which has been here for quite a while for us. So, boom, congrats if you do have that on your chart, and perhaps you were able to pretty much nail the lows there nicely overall. So here again is that 15 level that we're kind of talking about that we need to see price back over, and then we can talk about maybe moving up a bit higher. So I'll also be keeping an eye on the highs of the 16th as well, right around that 59.65 area, as so I will have that. But let's see what we get. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to go over on the daily chart for the ES. Actually, one thing I did want to look, let's see. And a lot of these, actually, I need to update. And I need to spend. No, this is not it. Okay. Am I not seeing any of them? Oh, these are the big macro. Where are the uptrends? Ah, here we go. Okay. Now I just wanted to see if we are coming close to any new or any of these bigger trend lines. But we are not. However, I do think it's fair that now we have a new one we can throw up here. Boom. All right, but we'll keep an eye if we do continue to dip. I'll keep an eye on, it depends really when we get there, but I'll keep an eye on this trend line as well. All right, let's get into some day trading levels for ES. And I didn't have to, since we're back where we started, I didn't have to change anything. So that was good. Okay. So here's that Monday push. And they really did it early. The new highs were at 8 o'clock, right? Then we failed. You can see here, just couldn't get back over the 35 area, had the inventory. And then once we really started breaking under that 6,610, it was off to the races there. And on the hourly, we're definitely going to start. You got to see how extended here we are from the 20. on the hourly, and that's sitting at 59.25. So double confluence there if you are looking at a short trade on ES. Pretty good confluence, not only from our level, we already were talking about that. We know this area here is that big structural area, anywhere from about 15 to about 20. So this is very interesting to me. Let's see, maybe we get that pop up over it and into that area. That might set us up for a good short zone. Came up in the end of the session right into the hourly 9 there, got rejected. Still going to need to see bulls over that 59.10 for that chance to come up into the 59.30s, 59.25. So I think that that could be your trigger. And if you want to stay short, that 59.10, 59.15 could be that short area as well. We are still below the 9 here, but just very extended. I'm not too, this has to start to catch up. I'm going to pay attention to the hourly 200 though, see how this goes. Still moving up. I want to see if this starts to curl back over. I am not so sure that it will, but either way, we will see here just right below the hourly value area lows. So I do think that it probably more than likely would want to come up and get back within that range. Still a little bit thin structure, as we were already talking about in the earlier daily chart, and you can really see it also illustrated here that there is still some imbalances in the profile right here. You can see, so if we do have some more downside, watch for these potential areas to get filled up. We were talking about that earlier as far as that downside risk right here at that 58.50 area. I believe we were talking about that on the daily as well, and 58.30. I have to go back, but I think I mentioned that one on the daily as well. So two areas very interesting there if we do start to break underneath. I'm going to say 58.80. Well, I mean, we got to break Friday's low, right, which was 58, 80, 76. Probably got a little bit lower than that. No, but either way, about 75. So start really seeing acceptance underneath Friday's low there. Watch out for those moves into these lower volume nodes, and we'll retrace about 75% of that rally that we had overall. And also here, if you did follow the video last week, we were talking again, and it not only lined up from our daily chart, but it lined up right here on our day trading levels, that 58.80, boom, and gave you a nice trade intraday on Friday as well. And it looks like Friday, what time is this? Oh, this was the Friday morning open here. There was another opportunity as well, and it looks like it might have been a bit difficult to hold if we had shorted 59.50, 59.50, 59.45. You would have taken about 6 or 7 points heat, but it looks like you could have handled that for a nice short right there at the morning. Look at that, it came back down and then failed. Or what you could have done was see it come up, and as soon as it came back underneath, and been like, okay, we just failed to break and confirm back above. The bulls really needed to do that, see some candles like this close and hold, and that would have really given us a better signal for a trade to the upside. But you can see, obviously, it didn't happen, and we collapsed. So that's how that goes. All right, well, I think that's all I needed to say here for ES. A lot of confluence with our daily levels overall and our day trading chart, so I loving to see that for us. So really, it's going to be a tough long for me unless we get over I can even say the hourly of the 11 o'clock high. That's that 59.15, pretty much 59.13. Then let's go for the 20, over the 20, then we'll come up and try to test those Friday highs again, maybe into those 59.45 area. But otherwise, stay underneath 15.10, can be a short back down to the Friday lows, under the Friday lows, breaking underneath that 58.80. Watch out, 58.48 could be around the corner. And I would watch, maybe we wick down, keep an eye on 59.65. I think that's also another area we were talking about. Keep an eye on that. The hourly candle from Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Actually, the start of Wednesday. 12 o'clock hourly low. 58.65. You know what? I'm just going to throw a... Even though it doesn't go within the system, I'll just throw it on there because 58.80 down. It's another 50-point drop, and I don't think it will be a straight shot like that. So let's keep an eye on that as well as a second possible TP, and then coming down a little bit lower. All right, that's everything I've got for the E-minis. Let's keep it moving along here and get into the NQ. Nope. All right. Okay. Let me find a blank chart. Okay, cool. All right, starting off here with the weekly chart. A bit more of an aggressive sell here on NQ, noticeably, where this pretty much has done about 75% of that weekly retracement, where ES was just around in that 50% range, right? So, and we've talked about finally NQ made a new all-time high, but it was the laggard. And it's kind of no surprise here to see a little bit stronger sell in tech overall, given that divergence that we had talked about for such a long time. But we are right here pretty much about 250 points, thereabouts 200 points, 225 points from the weekly 9. So definitely going to be paying attention to that, sitting at 20,350 thereabouts. So I will be watching that. Not quite there, but we definitely failed now back into these wicks here, fallen back underneath, and that overall is not really what you want to see. So similar situation in the sense that we're definitely, the bulls are going to have to start to get back above these prior balance highs to be able to have any type of hope to move back up. Now again, we can also look at this as far as that 50% range. This is about 25%, I would say, from the lows to here. That's about 25%. And, ooh, it's real close. Not quite, though. But from the previous all-time highs, it's, I wish it lined up perfectly. It's not 50%, but it's pretty damn close. Either way, we're going to have to pay attention to that. 50% retracement, pretty much of the weekly range, is about, well, almost around that 20. No, it's not that 21,000. Probably 20,900. 20,900, yeah. So you can certainly mark that, or of course you do have the prior all-time highs to look at as well. So I think that's reasonable, sitting at 20K, 20,000. If you want the number, yeah, 20,980, 983 if you want to be exact, but you know how I like to do it. So there you have it, right there, and we'll see obviously how that area starts to react. Let's just get down here, but overall, I mean, we'll see. I wonder if this kind of, could we really get a little cup and handle action if we see, some candles kind of go out here, right? Maybe we get something like that. Just a guess. Let's go to last week's levels that we were watching and break it down on a daily chart. Gosh, I hate these wicks on freaking NQ. It is ridiculous. All right, so I'm way more committed. Excuse me. Close below the 20 on NQ, sitting at 20,700, and the 9 sitting right now at 20,860. I still have the same viewpoint though. Have to think about some type of a snapback, but we could come into 600, maybe about 40 points lower, or excuse me, higher. Let's watch this 20. It might start to drift down and give us nice confluence. Do I want to be short in the hole here? Not at all. Where would I be interested? Well, push back up. And, it's a little bit tricky because obviously here it's broken. It broke above a little bit there. So it's not super clean, but ideally that would be kind of the scenario that you would be looking for if you are bearish. So, for me, it's about 100 points up, 150 points up. So I'm more looking probably for some type of a long and on Monday and potentially Tuesday. But the other thing that we have to mention, just as we created this thin structure going up, now we've also kind of created it down. So this also could lead to a bit more of that consolidation and chop type of scenario where we're watching, where we just trade within Friday's range for the next 2-3 days. Very, very possible. And it's certainly a tradable range. We dropped, I think we were down over 600 points at one point. I think we might have seen about 640 points. I don't know if we hit 650 points, but it was a massive day down. That was the run. Now looking for a little bit more of that rest. Now, do we get that bearish rest, right? Or do we get a neutral or slightly bullish rest here overall? And let's have these levels, but why don't we... maybe I won't do it on this one. Let's take a look at one of our other charts that we had built up. Okay, here we are. This is from last week. Okay, so what I'm going to do now that we have that clearer break of structure here, I had this level, I'm bringing it up just a little bit. It actually matches the high here. Boom, 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 boom. I like this better for our break. And so, although we can get retracements, we've got to get over 21,045. That's going to be the big area. For retracements, let's see, anywhere up into 700, definitely possible. About 100-point range here to the top of these balance highs. And really, I didn't quite, I see why. I just hate doing this on the daily because, it's a tough swing. You got a 300-point range. Or a 300-point supply zone, but that's really it there. 20K 800 to 20K 680s. So that's a little rough. But anywhere in that area, you're in a supply zone, so you just have to be careful if you are long. I wouldn't see why we wouldn't come back up, just retest it, and then potentially head back down, either matching the lows or coming down to retest into this bigger area here. Just look from the highs from, July 23rd, and back in June, late June, right here. That would make sense. Get something like that, right? But same thing as ES. If we start consolidating above, I think above 600 would be the first good sign. But really, if we start consolidating above 20K, 680, we start seeing some daily closes here. I'll start to feel a little bit better. Still, it's about that 50% of the range there. So, we have to watch out. But, this is going to get me a little bit feeling more bullish to bullish neutral. And then the big test will be back up to the figure at 21,000 and then about 45 points above that, right? But right into this area here, that's 50% retracement. That's the last stand there for the shorts, or at least the first big area. Again, we could see this, or they come up, they hang out over here, and then we do that, right? But I'm not chasing in short. The funny part is the same mentality of chasing the long on Monday, is chasing the short on this Monday. It's just the opposite, right? So don't be that trader. Does that mean blindly long on the open? No, of course not. We'll have to wait and see what Globex does and all of that, but there you have it. Okay, let's get into some day trading levels here. I think, well, let's just take a look at our other daily chart we had set up. Oh, did I have the highs? Whoops, hold on. No, let's also do this. I didn't do this. Let's create these balance highs there, which is the 13th high and the 8th high. 21,265, 270. Okay, so this is our structure here. And pretty much it was breaking that 21,040 that really started us off, breaking the lows from the 12th, because we had some equal lows there pretty much between the 12th and then the 13th, and then we died. So okay, let's go back to the other chart really quickly. So here again, here's that 600 area for the short. I mean, this is about that 25 retracement, something like that. First target, the matching low from Friday, but ultimately trying to get down into the 20,340s. Under that, watch out. I mean, we do have we do have the highs from the 4th to watch, right around 20,055, 50 area. And that's a little bit, I would say, of a break of structure there as well. And it's not quite matching here, but it's something to pay attention to if you want to mark it off the highs from the start of the month. And the 4th, the 4th might have been NFP high. All right, that might have been a Friday. I don't know. I'm not opening up the calendar right now. I kind of want to, but if it is, pay attention then to that, because then I think that if we broke that 20,340, that we would probably come down into that 20,350 area, or 250, about 100 points lower. So, and that would be, if that is that Friday, then that would make sense from the NFP perspective. Okay, let's look at some day trading levels, which are pretty much, again, the same from last week. No, I wouldn't have matched it. Okay. Oh, I had it on this one. All right, so Same situation as ES, broke over, couldn't get over, couldn't get over, couldn't get over. Tried again, and they said no. Breaking down underneath the 20,960. That balance high really. That was Friday evening. Took us out. I think on Thursday, I remember M said he was short there, or maybe it was at 900 here. I don't remember. Had this 400. Look at that one. That was beautiful. You know, I was even thinking of buying that too, as I was short, but I didn't. Didn't touch the 9. Didn't touch the hourly 9 on the retracement on Friday. ES did. Hourly 9 sitting as it stands at 20,555. See if we really start to get acceptance above 500 where we close at 503. I want to see 30-minute candle close. I'll wait to see. If we get a 30-minute candle close above that on Monday, we've got the opening range set and we're holding over that, I'm going to say 495. I'll probably look for longs 50 points up into the 9. Excuse me, if we can get over that, I'm going to look for these excuse me, value area lows. Next target, excuse me, coughing and yawning. 600 probably be the next area I'd be watching, and then up into 645. Here, value area lows probably for the next target. Nice confluence with the value area lows, and which is sitting at 635, and about 10 points higher for our 42 pivot. So that would pretty much be what I'd be looking for on Friday. And that would pretty much be half gap as well. 50% retracement of Friday's move down. I'm eyeballing it, but to me, from here to here, that's about 50% more or less. So if you're looking to short, 650 might be it. So that's my bullish scenario. What's the bearish one? We stay below 500. This candle opens, maybe we open above, but then we see another 15-minute or 30-minute close underneath like this. Then I'm going to start to be looking at a type of a rounded top, a rolly type of situation, hourly bear flag potentiality, and look to see if we can come back down to match Friday's lows, as we always talk about. Probably take most off there because we don't know if we're setting up then for a double bottom. But if we break, then I'll be looking for a little bit more downside here. Probably down about, I would say, anywhere from 50 points. It's a 100-point move, really, is what this system is calling for. Do I think that we will get that? It's a little tough because we do have the highs here, these hourly highs right here. 365 we might come down to first. The same thing with ES. You know, whoops, I want to throw out just another kind of area there. At 355. So under 400, about 40 points lower. Under 350, 20,350, then I will be calling it down to the figure at 20,300. So that's what I'm looking at. I got a bull plan, I got a bear plan, and that's all we need. Again, also run. Watch out for the rest. I don't know what the range is going to be. 50% retracement makes sense to me. But even from there, we might just get stuck in a range like this. I don't know if the range is going to be like that. That's the most bearish one, of course, as we mentioned. This is like a bullish. This is like a neutral, but I'm trying to get a little bit bullish situation. But over 20,650, well, then we can talk about coming up maybe into the 700s, the high 600s, 680, 695. We'll see what happens as this 20 moves around as well. So there we go. All right, let's take a look at some of our other charts that we like to watch. I'm going to do TLT first, as And we'll just try to fly through these. It is Saturday night, and we do have big UFC tonight, which I'm excited about. Let's just jump it up on the weekly. Oof, still just, we talked about a potential. God, they just are no quarter for the 30-year bond. They just do not want the bonds, right? I thought, wait, this was the 4th. Okay. We didn't even, I was still thinking that we could come up and retrace a bit higher before coming down, but they just did not, they were just not interested at all. Now, we are right here on the daily value area. Lows, pay attention to that. Not completely oversold yet, so still some more downside potential on that. I think I think I drew this last time to see about 88 half, 88.40. But I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch this value area low here, 89.63. I think if that can support, there's a chance still that we could come back and retest the 92, 91 area. I thought, like I said last week, did we get to it? Where did we start the week? It was the 11th. Oh, it did touch it. But it still closed the day red. The high was 91.85. My level here, 91.83. So 2 cents off. It did retrace and hit it for 1 second, but it was so short-lived. So we'll see. The bonds here could just end up doing this sideways. But this is really telling us, TNX it's giving us warnings still about inflation potentially with these. And we'll have to see with with these tariffs and what the new policies from the president to be and how those are going to affect. Okay, let's look at TNX really quickly. Just on a tear here. Bonds down, the yields up. We were talking about 43 is what they need to get under for any relief here. This is all inflation stuff. They're worried. Couldn't get under. So it's just still up and up. Just have your channel and let's just see. 45, 44, 44.82, big area there. You can see the highs from July. So I'm going to be watching that, probably the next area where we may come up into. And also could potentially see some downtrend or a downturn. Maybe we come up to that 44.88 area and then come back down and retest this channel before breaking up. Over 44.82 and 45, anywhere over that kind of 20-cent area. Well, I'm looking at 46 again, and that's going to be very interesting. That's going to take us back to the end of May highs. And that is another area where we could start to see a turnaround, but everything still here looks like we want to just continue going. I will say the daily 20s, no, it's not even that extended. So up over 46, we got a real issue. Okay, looking at the dollar here, still this is all kind of talking more so like they're just not sure about inflation. But we can see here that around this 106, 84, 85 as an issue, it's going to have to get over. This might end up running sideways for a little bit before then continuing. But unless the dollar gets over 106.90 and over 107, it's going to be tough. Over 107, 107.35, I think we could hit over 107.35. It will take us back to around 107.75 is what I'm looking at. if you want the dollar to go down, it needs to get underneath 106.20. So unless it does that, it's the dollar staying higher. Let's look at the 10-year. Did it do anything? I think it's about the same. No, hasn't moved. Getting close to 15. Yeah. One day VIX could come a little bit higher before we see an issue. Let's see if we get a 15 reading on that. How many stocks are trading over in the SPX, the S&P, over their 50-period moving average? All right, we were talking about this as well. Didn't quite get to the trend line, but you get the idea. It pretty much is following. It just made, right? We had our high, swing high, lower high again. Where do you think this would potentially go, as we always talk about, to match the lows or to match that zero line? So we'll see. Maybe we get one uptick here, like so, like this, and then maybe we come back down. That would be something I'd be looking for. This would be maybe a 1 or 2 counter trend rally day up, and then back down to the zero. 200 overall slower moving, so I don't watch it as much, but it's just in a balance. So this is really nothing really here. So not too concerning. And that's probably not even. I could do it more so probably like this. Nothing too concerning there. It's not even near their 50%. Maybe we come down to the 60%, but I doubt it. So slow. But no real concerns. Everything's over the 50 there. Let's look at new highs versus lows with the breath. Ooh, right on the zero line. Nothing that's really scaring me. Let's see if this starts to really accelerate under, then we can talk about it. Junk bonds. I think we were talking a little bit about that bearish divergence and last time, and we came right up into our area on junk bonds, right at that 78. Perfect how that worked. Boom, back down, coming back up just a little bit. We'll watch about this swing low. Was this just a higher low here that we are putting in? I mean, we can certainly maybe make that argument. I think that this here's a SPY chart. So I had a trend for that one. But this is interesting. This down without even an uptick. This gives me a bit of a hope for that 2 or 3 day counter trend rally. This up, that down. Just take a look at the short-term bonds. No one wants it. Kind of flat here on our ratio. 7 to 30 year. This still just looks like it wants to move up, and that would mean the bonds will go down. Continued. Let's take a look at the Dow and transports. Kind of failing this flag, but let's see. Nothing really too scary there on the Dow. It is starting to break. A little bit of structure though. On the transports stay below 17,315, and we could see 1,700. Would be my view on that. The Dow Jones, this looks like a head and shoulders. The Dow stay below Dow stay below 4360, 685, and you can see the Dow's actually held up, didn't even really retrace. It's not even at 50% really, almost. So I would watch, and that actually lines up very nicely. These previous highs is about 50%. Yeah, so let's see if the Dow here can hold 53,335. If so, look for a bounce back up, maybe back up into the 53,680 area. And then we'll see what happens from there. But they are pretty much in sync, so no divergences to call out there. Let's look at the VIX really quickly. VIX back above 16. Oh, call the put ratio. A little spicy. But calm back down. Didn't hold up there, so nothing for me there as far as a contrarian viewpoint. And the VIX back above our 1575. Still, if we stay above 15 and above 1575, I think the volatility will stay. Keep an eye out for 18 to be touched, and maybe 19 again. If you want volatility to stay in the market, I'll be watching this here. You want something like this, some candles to close like that, and then we can do that. It seems like it has the potentiality. And let's look at the VIX futures really quickly. Contract's about to expire soon anyway. Oh, well, we were in a nice contango. Now we're just right on the line between contango and backwardation, so we'll have to see what happens there. But the monthly minus the 9-day in contango right now. And the VVIX, well, if you want volatility to continue, you're gonna have to start seeing this back over. We're still over the 96.20, but it's kind of uncommittal to me. I have to really stay above that, but to me it looks like it wants to cool off just a little bit. Readings over 100, 103, 105 is where that volatility can really pick up. So, all right, that's everything I really wanted to go over. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Again, remember what we say, a prepared trader is a profitable trader. So let's trade our plan. Let's plan our trades. I'm wishing everybody a great week of trading ahead. Let's be smart and follow our rules. And I wish everybody has a great rest of the weekend. And that's all I've got. So again, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Helps me out a lot, and it's free. And you get tons of content each week about the markets, what I am looking at. If you found this helpful, smash the thumbs up. That means a lot to me as well. And share, comment below. Tell me what you think. Higher, lower, chop. All right. Well, again, have a great weekend. Take care. And that's all I got. See you out in the internet webs.